Welcome back. This is going to take every minute we have, so I'm going to get right into it. Lori and I have, first off, thank you. Thank you for returning. Thank you for listening. Lori and I have been going round and round, and um, we're going to work on it today in front of everybody
Oh
because
boy.
we are not just vehemently polarizing when it comes to this topic, but I mean, we're passionate about it. Um, Truth and trust. Let me just bring in Lori. Lori, hi.
Howdy, brother. Oh my gosh. I hope that we can behave decently here because what people don't
Oh,
know is
without a doubt.
when we talk about this, it's intense. It matters. It
Spirited,
matters.
no doubt.
So the one thing that we can agree upon is it matters. And that's a good starting point. What is truth? Is there truth? Is there a final absolute truth? I say absolutely yes. There is truth versus there is my truth, your truth. Um, and Leroy is much more open and receptive to all forms of thinking. I believe I also am open to different types of thinking because I don't believe that I am in possession of this truth that I speak of. But Leroy, to begin with, I did just a little bit of thinking about this. And so I'm going to just say, let's break it into two parts so that we can leave with something at least a little tangible. As an ideal, is there an ultimate truth that exists? And we can hash that out. But now let's have a second part, which is um, we still have to live life until we reach an understanding or do not. So the same concept like you were talking about last time, because this is very conceptual, what we're talking about, we still have to be operable in a relationship, right? While this goes on. So the second part of this is maybe like, so today, how do we have two such different versions and exist and grow together? Because this is still my choice and it's still your choice, like it or not. I chose for you. Right?
So let me come at you with this,
Sure.
and we may be able to uh, disband right here if I can only get you to acquiesce, but not likely. So we say truth and we say trust.
Right.
And I have to say that at people's core, before we become flawed or experienced in deception, and we become experienced, and these are ugly words that exist within all of us,
It's just the way
but
it is.
we have to be honest. Okay, we're going to testify. So you have to trust that at our core we're speaking the truth. So if there's a child that is 36 inches tall, and there is his father at 6 foot tall, and they're standing near an oak tree in at 12 o'clock noon, and they're standing under an oak tree, and the little boy says, "It's hot." He's telling the truth, and the father says, "It's not hot. It's about 12 degrees cooler." He, at 6 foot tall, enjoys the shade of the oak tree. He's also telling the truth. And this is the point where I tell you that there are more than just one truth. And you have to trust that they're both saying the truth. They're nobody's offering up deception for any particular benefit. They're just saying the truth, because that little boy who cannot appreciate or enjoy the shade of the mighty oak is in the sun, and he's saying the truth. It is hot. And the dad, who's just 36 inches taller than him, is also telling his son the truth. It's not hot. It's quite bearable here. He's enjoying the shade because the shade is casting a shadow over him. He's taller. He's up closer to the branches. So therein lies dual truths.
Right. They're not at odds with each other though, because you can explain it. I don't want to jump because my tendency would be to just jump into argument with that. But I think something that you have said is very precious there that we should try to hold on to and maintain. And that's that there's no attempt at deceit from either. And one of the things I was thinking of, like, what matters? Why does it matter whether there's a truth or not? It does matter to me. I can tell you that. It matters maybe more than it ought to, but it just does. That's just how I'm made. One of the things that I came to, Leroy and I had a very long conversation about this last night. Man, he took me from here to the east to different centuries and everything. To kind of have a look at this. And that's how it overflowed into today. So when I was thinking about it today, what matters most about everything that we said? What matters most if there is an ultimate truth, a truth that's a little bit higher, a little bit more noble than what we are in awareness of right now. And I was thinking about it, and I think I got this from you. I think you said something along these lines, but I took it, I reworked it. It's mine now. Okay, brother?
Take it.
And the thing that I will say is that I do think that there is a wholeness of truth, but I also think a part of truth is that not that truth itself evolves, but that we are like working ourselves within the relationship of what that is. And so we are changing. And the reason I say that is what matters most while we are progressing towards truth, the highest truth. If I am not in possession of it, then, and this is the part I'm kind of hijacking from you, then what I don't know needs to be more important than what I do know. And I have to be loyal to that. And that brings me back, I guess in this way, you kind of humbled me. I don't know how you said it yesterday, but to where it's more important that I'm listening and learning if I truly believe in that than repeating over and over the little bits of information that I believe I have that I am linking to that when I've said I'm not yet there. And so it's that openness. Do you remember you were saying this yesterday? And so on that note, the other thing that I have thought about for the so what now? We have to exist while we're in the throes of seeking truth or not concerned with it. We still have to live with one another. We have to be good to each other, whether it's by choice or by truth. Most people come to this belief. And I think that when you're talking about the dad at his height and the kid, what is most important in that picture you painted is the honesty of each is more important than the truth. It would be more damaging for the child to just convert, to change and be like, reassign that feeling going through his body of heat and now call it not hot because of his father. That's somehow goes more against truth than to kind of say, well, for me, it is hot, right? So that's my starting point with your little story there.
So Lori, as we look at this, and I'm trying to grow in these conversations and be brought closer to light and truth. I like that we used both truth and trust. The fact that truth is before trust is not emblematic. It is just the way that we listed it. but they're of equal importance, especially when you're coming to truth, because truth is can be accepted only if there is a high degree of trust. So when somebody comes to you, and this comes off our last podcast where we were talking about inventory and influence on our lives, but when we include people or introduce people into our life that we trust, we have to trust until we learn otherwise. We have to trust that they are bringing us the closest version of truth when they are contributing to our life, whether that's, being, what's that?
It's an
avocado. So we have to believe that they are bringing the closest, the most clear version of the truth. And truth it's changing, it's fluid, because as we know more, we do more. The guy that says, I'm doing my best, he is doing his best until his education grows and he learns to use a wheel. He's transporting a square rock until he can break off the rough corners and more easily roll it. But he's still doing his best. That is the truth. Is he doing his best? He's doing his best at that point in time. And then after he tips this block over and over and over, he begins to wear off the rough corners.
Right.
And begins to move more easily. Now he says, I'm doing my best. He is, again, at that point, until he puts a hole in the middle and two men push it. You know what I mean? So he's always speaking the truth, and we have to trust his truth. I mean,
that's right. Yeah.
But it is constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
When we approach something, especially matters of the heart, we come to Tug of Heart with the best that we are at that point. And then through this, I've learned an incredible amount about tolerance, not tolerance with you, but tolerance with myself for my own lack of understanding, my own lack of clarity. And I know that when I started, I was overwhelmed that you even wanted me to join you. And I'm like, okay. And I took these lines, which were really more about just being honest, because that's all I could offer up was just this unveiled, raw reality of what and who I am or have been. And then as I go, I became more tolerant with myself, because I know that now, today, I'm bringing a better me, the best me, if you will.
Right.
But through these conversations, that the best me from yesterday or from episode 1 that I joined you to now, the truth has changed, but it was still the best. That was the best I had in that window.
Yeah, I like that. I think going back to that visual of the block in the corners, and this guy is starting to wear it off. I think what happens is a lot of times you give me this image of a new way to picture stumbling blocks, and that's where somebody has just started to crack a couple edges. They're just about to have some smoother traveling, and the wise person will be like a few more turns and his transport's going to become easier. To me, an unwise person or a pride-filled person, which I think you could say are even the same, may say, no, the block is all wrong. And they may give them a brand new block with strengthened corners again. Who's helping? Right? Even if you know something about the block, once somebody has come this far in their journey and things are about to just feel a whole lot lighter, and they're going and it's about to become their premise for the next thing, like you say, right? Their next premise is about to be discovered. Maybe after that, they'll say, what about this rock? But if right then you disrupt that process that's very precious, and they have lost some blood, sweat, and tears, probably formed some calluses by then, maybe got a stick and a guy on the other side that invested, and you're like, that's not the truth. It's this block. And you start them again. Have you advanced them, or have you brought them back? And the thing is, we are here together, I believe, completely because we're here to do it together and to be helpful to one another. And that goes back to what is most helpful, and having the heart, not the brains, never the brains, but the heart to see what might be most helpful. You mentioned about what's the sound for the ratcheting? The guy with the ratchet, right?
I'm sorry.
With tightening, he's tightening the engine and getting frustrated. And
oh yeah.
only the heart can be trusted to know when to let somebody fail, because it's going to be more beneficial than to take a tool from them and show them how to do it. Because the lesson wasn't the quickest to do it, but it's a lesson in patience, right? You want to retell it?
We're talking about Christopher, and we're on a camping trip, and Christopher needed to do brakes on his truck, and I said, bring the stuff with you. You're going to have a captive audience. We're going to be making some good food, and we'll just work on it while we're out in the mountains or wilderness or outdoors. And he's like, okay. So he brings it, and I could tell him, or I could do it. But if I were to do it, I helped him, I didn't teach him. And those are two totally different things. I can help him or I can teach him. But if I teach him, it's also helpful. So it's a way of satisfying two things. So he's tightening with an impact. And he's like, how tight do I go? I'm like, you'll know. And he tugga, right? Tugga. And he snaps the bowl. And I'm like, apparently 4 tuggas is not the right amount. And, he was frustrated. He's, just fuming. Well, we helped him get another bolt. And, there was plenty of us there. We would have figured it out somehow. We would have looked over the vehicle and robbed.
I believe first you fed and hydrated him, though.
Yeah, he did have a couple of beers.
That becomes relevant in reaching truth, is the care given to gain that trust.
Yeah, he does trust us, and that's the beautiful thing, because we're bringing the best that we can offer to a young member of our little cohort. Right? He is the youngest member by 20 years. Okay, so he has this just infectious enthusiasm for learning about camping, about cooking, about brakes. I mean, he's a great kid. And without that trust that we're bringing the best version of truth that we have on that day, if he didn't have that trust, he couldn't enjoy the truth. So, but he does. He trusts us, and when we steer him in the right direction. So as we go through this, Lori, and we have a really solid base right now with about 20 minutes to go. Tell me, your truth, does it just stay where it's at?
To me, truth always does stay where it's at, because it's unchanging. I am attached to truth relationally, in that I can move away from it. I can move closer to it. I can embody some of it. I can happen upon some. I can have some revealed to me, maybe supernaturally. I can have some given to me from somebody else's experience if I trust them and I allow some room for certain authorities in my life. I take it upon some authority that some things are true. If you told me 3 turns, I could either exhaust it myself, if had there been a different approach to it, I could do 4 to verify what you said, and it would be verified, or I could take it, I guess, as they say, take it in faith. But that means a little bit of letting go, because getting to truth is like it's a dance. I don't think it's not a step. It's not little lit up steps and very clear markers, step here, next here with arrows. There is something to, like you often say, the precariousness of entering into that. And a lot of that comes from, a lot of times what we want right now and right here is at odds with the truth of what's most right for us. And so we face a lot of distraction. But the other thing is, I think that we also have to, like when you were saying about being tolerant, we have to make room for not just the truth that somebody has or does not have, that they counter it, but also as a human traveling my own path and encountering other humans traveling their own path, it's kind of respecting the path as much as you judge how much of that truth you believe they've encountered. To me, that's where it becomes more important. I was picturing, when you were telling me about that young man, another time when our sister Dorothy, was in hospice, and the weather was beautiful. I mean, apart from what was going on, the weather did not seem to agree with it. And so you were outside in this little kind of like a Zen garden with Seth at the time, showing him how to build a bridge. Okay, let's get a couple cars. Nah, we'll find what we need out there. We're going to make a bridge. You know how to make a bridge. You've been making stuff a long time. And Seth wanted to make a bridge. Somewhere along the way to building a bridge, it went from getting sticks to he took a stick and made a road to the bridge. And you're like, that makes sense. And then perhaps another road, and then swirls, and then he's drawing. So the difference would be, to me, to approach his journey. Yeah, you were going to show him an absolute of how to make a bridge. You would have been able to show him how to make a bridge that would hold up and serve him well later. But then there's the heart approach, which is like, he's building roads though. So do you want to interject and correct him? Because what he's doing is pretty natural. He's building roads. It's just shifted into that on its own. It's not a statement about you. So with your heart, you could either say, that's not a bridge. We're making a bridge. Well, hello. I mean, that wouldn't have rendered you some kind of genius, but instead you just let it. Next thing you know, you're by his side, you're building roads. And to me, the heart is more about saying, I'll side with you and let's have a look at what you're looking at. Not, I insist you look at what I'm looking at from where I'm looking at, because I have the perfect frame right now for some type of truth. But it's being gentle enough to set that aside, because to me, whatever the ultimate truth is, it has a whole lot to do with the heart, and it has a whole lot to do with love, and it has a whole lot to do with being gentle. And there's moments like that I think capture all of it, where there was a certain formula to the bridge, but there's a higher truth in you surrendering to the truth of your heart. Like, this guy just wants to build some roads, and letting him do it repetitively, as was his nature. And to me, that's more valuable, right?
So with Seth, my wife always tells me, you never know what the magic words are until you hear them. There are many things in life that they just change us. They change us didn't even expect it. They just change us. So it's funny that we're talking about Seth, because when I think about Seth and I think about the bridge and I think about Seth building the roads, I mean, what's the value of a bridge? I mean, you wouldn't even understand the importance or the need for a bridge without a road leading up to an event where you need a bridge. And you think about Seth and Seth's life. Seth's life is the road, and the bridge is where Seth's road stopped and something lied on the other side of the bridge. Some would say it's emblematic of passing to ultimate perfection, mm-hmm. or however you may interpret that. But if you don't, a bridge by itself is just a bridge. And what use is a bridge if it doesn't connect two roadways? You know, it's two paths, you know, life, afterlife, I don't know, but he was figuring it out. Right. You know, when it's time for the bridge, I'll show you about the bridge, you know?
The other thing is, a bridge was made with you and him, because Seth does not, as many people know, he will bridge with who he chooses to bridge with. And it takes a certain type of bridge that many are not able to form with him. I was picturing that. But a bridge is made. The other thing that this does exemplify to me, and this is something I've seen you do a lot, even though I'm gonna speak freely here because I can, and I'm gonna just trust that I'm safe to. You can be a son of a gun to argue with. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I can get a tension in me just to picture it, just to imagine it, right? But here's one of the things that I do know about you. Even when you fight, whether it's out of habit or out of, let me get them really passionate about what they're talking about and invested in it, wherever you're coming from, there is always this willingness on some level for you to be on your hand and knees in service, like you were that day with Seth. And there's always a feeling with you, Leroy. And I want to open this up to everybody, because this isn't just about you, but with people. The people that I find the closest to a higher truth are the ones that, when they are going to share something true with somebody else, they are, you know, hey, let's get together and let's exchange a truth. They don't go into that exchange with the assumption that they are the one teaching. They go with the assumption that something will be taught and something learned, maybe from both. And I do think every time you enter into these conversations, which is why me and you can disagree horribly, is that you enter them, probably a little more than me, if I'm being honest, as a recipient as well as teacher, a student and teacher both. You don't go in assuming that you will be teaching. And I think that's something that a lot of us could stand to gain from, because we could look at just the picture that I was drawing of that day. Was there still teaching? Oh my gosh, so much teaching that today me and you are still drawing from that teaching, aren't we? And there's magical moments when you know you've hit some kind of truth, because here we are still expanding on it, Leroy. And that's why I insist there are some things that are so true, irreversibly so.
If you were to ask my wife, she would say like, oh, he is impossible. And I am. But my wife has had enough faith in me. She has enough trust in me. And she has learned that without a conventional education, in whatever I've learned in life, there is, and you got to trust me on this, Sam, you doing Trust and Truth. You have to trust me that the only way that I can enhance the truth that I am in possession of at the moment I engage in debate, you have to trust me that the only way that I can enhance that truth is by defending it. And oftentimes it changes. So if it is, again, it is only the defense of the truth that I am actively in possession of, can I learn a different truth. Because for my life, that is the truth at that point. And I actually need, and I'm glad you said it, because I am agreeable. I am agreeable to a different truth, but explain it to me. And it may get messy.
Right. And that's one thing that I think people would stand to make a whole lot more headway in life if they did give permission for passions and intensity without saying, oh, their voice just changed, I detected a change, or a change was about to happen, I'm tapping out. And we rob ourselves of so much truth. And more important than this is something you said 2 conversations ago here on Tug of Heart. When we are seeking, it's not always, it's hard to find things, but it's hard sometimes to accept what we find. And now I want to reframe that with what I said at the beginning, where we need to be operable here and now, and we have to live our life. We can't wait for the wholeness of truth to start living in truth. And that's where I said that honesty becomes more valuable. So one of the things that I think for me, for us, anybody else who is more coming from my position, where it's hard to accept other people's point of view, and that is where you can systematically ask yourself, this is the way that I work things out. Okay, so now you've said this is how I reach an understanding. Okay, so do you hold your own? Not you. Does one hold their own thoughts to the same scrutiny as the other thoughts that people share with them? And I think that's one way we can become more honest. Are we as rigorous when I'm like, hey, that's a real, like, I just thought of this idea, it's a good idea. Is it just good because it came out of me? Or am I going to like circle around it, have that like rigorous look at it the same way I would put somebody else to the squeeze if they just came up with some idea that I had not yet heard? And I think that's part of being honest is to examine ourselves in the same way we examine what comes out of the world. And also to ask yourself, or for me to ask myself, do I have higher standards for my thinking or for the thinking of others? Do they have to prove it? Have I done my own homework to prove what I think? Have I questioned, does it hold up to scrutiny, to reason, to whatever? And I think that's one way to start being more honest, even from the heart with ourselves. And the other question, if you want to just say, is this from the heart, is, okay, so I have an idea. So I think I'm a temporary genius because I had some kind of idea. Is it beneficial? Is it good? Is it helpful? Is it even, necessary right now? Because like, if I go back and reflect on the moment I'm talking about with you and Seth, I hold that as a truth, that I witnessed a truth then. If it's a truth, it's irreversible, like I said. So my next exchange, when I'm tempted to be like, ooh, I have the best zinger because somebody said this, or do I say, I'm going to defer to a truth that I know because I witnessed, I can never explain it except that something was there. And I'm going to be loyal to that and let this person draw their roads.
I like that. I mean, that's I got to think about it. I need to process that.
And
There's a lot there.
I probably won't immediately, like, don't expect this next time we talk, but I'm saying that it does make me think that that's a fair place to start if we do believe that, right?
I think most rational people review revisit the thought process that led up to a declaration. I mean, I think that people, there is an initial, they are just absolutely enamored with their idea and they want to share it. But I think most people play it over a couple times. I mean, they poke holes in it. Nobody wants to be foolish in front of people. I mean, so I have to trust that people review it. I think it's hard. I mean, it's like they say, trust but carry a big stick. But when somebody first comes at you with a bit of information, I mean, unless it's something that we know to be different, like telling you, like, oh my goodness, some of the best things in life are, wheat germ, fish oil, and crack cocaine. Well, hang on, let's put the brakes on. Let's pump the brakes because we know crack cocaine is not good for you, like the other two. So we know, but most people we have to trust come with good intentions. I think they do, and we are getting to a point in the world and in life where things are definitely, they call for questioning. And that's a different topic, but this is really good. I mean, I think that you and I are closer because it's not that there are different truths. Truth is truth. Truth is truth at different places in time, and the execution of truth changes. So, I like it. Lori, what a great topic. I'm so sad that we're out of time.
Not even a dent in it, but we'll be here next week. At least it brings us together again. And that's part of accepting the beauty of not reaching the fullness of truth today, is that we will reconvene. And that has its own value now, doesn't it?
Trust me when I tell you this truth. You will not have the luxury of me not being here for the next podcast.
I love you, my brother.
I love you too.
You're one of the good ones for the most part.
Listen, like, share, keep commenting, keep contributing. We keep talking about having guests, and we will soon enough. Lauren, until next time.
Recommendations, right? Until next time, please at least be honest if you're not in full truth, and keep seeking if that's what you feel made to do.
And trust that others are also.
Yes.
Adios.